we discussed about the solar pond, and one of the applications of solar pond is for getting uh, hot water for process heating purposes, or the places in industry where heat or hot water is required. For example, the one at the Booch Dairy, which was used for like providing the boiler feed water, or was used for washing purposes. Another application of the solar pond could be to run a low temperature Rankine cycle, as shown in this diagram, which was also explained. Now we talk about another application. In a way, here also we are talking about process heating applications in industry. So in industries, it's not only the electrical energy is the form in which the energy is consumed. There are there is lot of requirement of heat for different purposes in different processes. And many times this heat is not required at a very high temperatures. So solar process heating can be utilized there, which is an environment friendly option for getting the process heat. So here some examples of processes and the temperatures required for those processes are shown. So as it is shown, for in dairy industries, for different applications like pasteurization, sterilization, drying, concentrates, boiler feed water, right? So the temperature in the range of 60 to 180 degrees is required. Then the food processing industries, again, sterilization, pasteurization, etc. Cooking, bleaching, textile industry also, like drying, dyeing, and so on. Paper industry, chemical industry for making soaps, synthetic rubber, processing heat, pre-heating of boiler water, etc. For some other industries like meat industry and beverage industry. Okay, so there are so many different industries where there is a need for heat, and many of these are not at a very high temperature, so they can be provided with uh, solar collectors, either flat plate collectors, but plate collectors do not give you very high temperatures. Up to 60 or 80 it is fine, but when the temperature required are higher, you need to go for concentrating type or focusing type of solar collectors. And many of this can be served by you don't need a very high concentration ratio. So lower concentration ratio collectors are less complicated and have means easier to, or the initial cost is low. So such uh, solar collectors can be used for these purposes. So one such example or a scheme is given here. A parabolic trough may be used for process heating purpose. So that is shown in the diagram here. So as you can see, like you have a need for process heating, you need process steam. So what might be done is you want temperature more than 100 degrees Celsius. So you're using a pressurized closed circuit for that. You are using a pump, and then pressurized water is passed through the parabolic trough type of collector. Now you already know the configuration of parabolic trough type of collector. So here it will be the receiver or absorber tube through which the pressurized water passes. The temperature increases as it passes through this, right? You don't want perhaps the boiling to occur here, so you are using pressurized water here. And the temperature, the need is more than 100 degrees Celsius. So you have to go for pressurized water if you want to use water as working fluid. Okay, many times water is the best working fluid because of its good heat transfer characteristics. So parabolic trough type of collector might be used for increasing the temperature of water, can be more than 100 degrees Celsius. And now here you reduce the pressure. So part of it gets converted to, so it's flashing. So part of it, or throttling. So part of it gets converted into steam, which can be utilized for some process, and the remaining water may be recirculated and reheated, and you are consuming steam, so it may condense somewhere and you may take it back here. Or if it is open loop here, then that steam is converted into, let's say, water, and it is drained, and here you provide makeup water, right? So this is one way in which steam may be uh, used for process heating. There are many other applications, possible applications, right? Only thing is that it has to become technically and economically feasible. So people have been trying for years and decades to make these systems technically and economically feasible. And uh, there are many companies, many times small, comparatively small companies, which are trying to do research and development in such area, and launch some products. So here there is one video which explains different applications of parabolic trough type of collector for different types of process heating. Now, actually, when you say process heating, actually that heat can be utilized even for refrigeration and air conditioning. So maybe I'll cover refrigeration part first, and then at the end I can play the video, and maybe also air conditioning. Now, you have not formally learned the subject of refrigeration and air conditioning, but I believe you know basics of vapor compression refrigeration system. And here, what has been described is vapor absorption refrigeration system, which is different from vapor compression refrigeration system, but still some of the components in vapor absorption refrigeration system are same as vapor compression refrigeration system. So you can have a look at this diagram. So if you focus on the left hand side here, what you find is there is a condenser. So you can recall a vapor compression refrigeration cycle. In that there is a compressor. After the compressor there is a condenser, or you can think of an air conditioner at your home, or the refrigerator at your home. So there is a condenser, right? The condenser of an air conditioning unit is the outdoor unit, right? It stands outside the building, and throws out the heat, and when it rejects heat, it produces the liquid refrigerant. So that liquid refrigerant is created or produced in the condenser. The name itself is condenser. It means that the refrigerant is condensing. Then there is an expansion valve, or there is a capillary tube there, which reduces the pressure. And when it reduces the pressure, the temperature also reduces along with that. So low temperature, low pressure refrigerant, okay, most of it in liquid form. Some part has converted into vapor form due to the pressure drop or flashing. But still there is a large percentage of liquid available, and that liquid takes heat from the space that you want to cool. In case of, let's say, domestic refrigerator, it is the refrigerator cabin or the ice box that is being cooled, or that space is being cooled. Or in case of air conditioner, it's the room which is being cooled. So the room air is providing heat to the refrigerant, and taking that heat, the refrigerant boils in the evaporator, and that refrigerant is now in vapor form. Now this right hand side components are different from vapor compression refrigeration system. Vapor compression refrigeration system has just a compressor here, which takes in the vapor of the refrigerant, increases its pressure, and along with that the temperature also increases, and that superheated vapor goes into the condenser, and the cycle continues. But here we are talking about vapor absorption refrigeration system, where a compressor is replaced with a few more components. So this system, of course, seems to be more complicated. So generally it is used only for large sizes, not for small sizes, like people have been trying to make and make it commercially viable, a small size vapor absorption refrigeration systems, but till date it hasn't been that successful. So here what is done is, in case of vapor absorption refrigeration system, you have not single refrigerant, but there is a pair of working fluid. One of them is refrigerant, which flows. It's purely refrigerant which flows here, pure refrigerant which flows here. But in these components, you also have another working fluid out of that pair of refrigerant and absorber. So the other working fluid is called absorbent. So such pairs, like you can have a pair of ammonia water, where ammonia is the refrigerant, or one can have a pair of lithium bromide water, where strong solution of lithium bromide and weak solution of lithium bromide can be means that is the working fluid, and water is the refrigerant in case of lithium bromide water vapor absorption refrigeration system. So it's not that water is never used as a refrigerant in any of the refrigeration system. In lithium bromide water vapor absorption refrigeration system, water is used as a refrigerant. The limitation of that lithium bromide water system is that the water is to be evaporated, let's say here at 4 degrees Celsius, boiling of water at 4 degrees Celsius, and condensation of water at, let's say, 45 degrees Celsius. So you can think that the pressure should be very, very low. So the whole system works under vacuum, and particularly the evaporator works at a very high vacuum in lithium bromide water system. If we think of ammonia water system, then I think it will be simpler to understand this system. So ammonia is the refrigerant, and ammonia vapor from the evaporator is coming here, and water or weak solution. Weak solution means refrigerant concentration is less, so it has affinity for ammonia, and ammonia vapor is absorbed here, right? So ammonia vapor is absorbed, so it becomes a strong solution, means rich in refrigerant. Refrigerant is ammonia when we talk about ammonia water, right? So here that absorption takes place, then that solution is a strong solution or rich in refrigerant ammonia. Ammonia percentage is high now after the absorber. Now it's pumped into this component called generator, and in between there is a heat exchanger. I'll explain you what is the need for the heat exchanger. So here you have the high concentration ammonia water solution or aqueous ammonia solution. In this generator you need heat, right? And this is the main energy input into this system. And when you supply heat to that solution, the vapor of the low boiling temperature component comes out. So it's ammonia vapor which comes out, right? Now, it's not actually, in case of ammonia water, it's not only ammonia which boils. Along with that, there is a small percentage of water which also boils and goes with the vapor. So there is one extra component here which is not shown because this is not a course of refrigeration. I've taken a simpler diagram. So there is a component called rectifier here, but it is not shown. So that rectifier basically removes the water vapor, condenses it and sends it back to the return channel, right? So that is not shown here. So in generator, the vapor of the refrigerant is generated and then that goes to the condenser. So why we are talking about vapor absorption refrigeration system is that here the main energy input is in the form of heat, which can come from solar energy, So you can have uh, solar water heater, right, and provide the heat here into the generator, and you can run this vapor absorption refrigeration cycle. This is the simplest way in which you can construct this cycle. So it is single stage system, right, which needs low temperatures, comparatively low temperatures from the solar collector. Now this solution, which is now the vapor of the refrigerant has come out. So now it is again weak. That is, there is less of ammonia in the solution, less percentage ammonia. That is again in the cycle. It is returned back to the absorber. Again, it will absorb vapor and the cycle will continue. Now, when you are pumping this strong solution into the generator, in generator anyway you are going to heat it, and when you are returning this weak solution from generator to absorber, it is to be cooled in the absorber. So it's always a good idea to exchange the heat between these two streams, because this is at a lower temperature, which is anyway to be heated here. So it gets heated in the heat exchanger by recovering heat from this solution, which anyway needs to be cooled here. So it's always a good idea to put a heat exchanger between these two streams of the solution. So this is about the vapor absorption refrigeration system. We talked about this system only because it's a system where you can use heat as input energy, and that energy can come from a solar collector. Now you may ask, is a pump energy? Yes, it needs electrical energy, but if you put a compressor, it compresses a gas which will consume much higher, uh, heat. Which will consume much higher electricity as compared to pump, right? Even in Rankine cycle, you many times neglect the work of or power consumed by the pump. So here it may be little higher than that, because it handles or increases the pressure of the solution, which is more viscous than water, but still it is not very significant. So this is the main energy input which can come from solar energy, and this is how you can produce refrigeration with the help of solar energy, solar thermal energy. Okay. Now it can also be used for air conditioning. Now most of you, as you might know, air conditioning as the domestic air conditioner which is used in homes. But when you say air conditioning, there is a part of removal of moisture also. It's not only reducing the temperature, it's also about removing moisture, particularly in this monsoon conditions. The humidity is very high. So at that time, removal of moisture is also an important job of an air conditioning system. So in the next diagram, there is an air conditioning system shown. And it is also, let me explain the process first, and then a chart is given where the process parameters have been plotted. So here there is a space which is air conditioned, right? Now in such a space, if you think about a split AC, what it does is it takes the room air, it cools it and puts it back into the room. So the same room air it is continuously recirculated in a split AC. But if it is a centralized air conditioning system, that's not the way it is done. You need to take some air from atmosphere, that is called fresh air or outdoor air. And it may be a good idea to process it and reduce its enthalpy and then put it in the space. What is the need for fresh air or outdoor air? If you just go on recirculating the room air, there are pollution sources in the room. The human being himself is also a source of pollution, right? When we exhale, we give out carbon dioxide as well as other pollutants. Okay, so those to dilute those pollutants and to maintain low level of carbon dioxide and required level of oxygen, you need to take air from outside. Now the air outside has high temperature and high humidity as compared to what you maintain in room. So you need to remove moisture and you also need to cool it before you put it in the conditioned space. Okay, so let's say this is only for treating the fresh air, the air that is taken from outside. And there is a separate air conditioning system, let's say, for providing further cooling. Okay, this is only for cooling this stream, which is required to keep the pollutant level low. Now, when you are supplying air into the room, you can take out equal amount of air from the room. If you don't take it out anyway, like when you supply some air, the mass of air may remain constant and it will leak out. Okay, so rather than that, what you do is you take out some exhaust air, and that exhaust air is actually can be utilized to recover the cold that you have produced here. So there is this component here called dehumidifier wheel and another component heat recovery wheel. Now let me go to the process plot. So what you have here, there is moisture content plotted here. There is a term humidity ratio, grams of water per kilogram of dry air. You need not worry much about the definition, like the definition of that, but basically you can consider it to be a measurement of moisture level in air. So higher this number, more the moisture in air, right? And on this vertical axis, it's the temperature. Now you can have a look at the numbers that are shown here. So atmospheric air is at state 1. So that state 1 is here, ambient, right? That state 1 is here, ambient. So you can see what is the temperature. The temperature is slightly exceeding 30. Now in summer, in our regions, the temperature can easily exceed even 40 degrees Celsius, right? But here the temperature is somewhere around 32 or something. And the moisture level is around 12, maybe slightly higher than 12. Now you want to supply this outside air into this area, right? You can consider this to be an auditorium. Okay, this conditioned space is an auditorium and or a theater, and so many people are sitting inside. So there is a need for taking air from outside and supplying that air. Otherwise, it will become a very unhealthy environment. So, but that outside air is having high in moisture as well as high in temperature. So you want to reduce both of these. Okay, so one way of doing it is shown here. Now, so what you are doing is first it is passed through this dehumidifier wheel. Now, what is dehumidification? Dehumidification means removal of moisture. Now here there is some chemical used, which is this is called actually desiccant wheel. So desiccant is a material which absorbs water vapor. So, and this is slowly rotating. So it's like exposed to this stream of air. It slowly rotates, goes to the other stream, and again comes back. It can be few RPH or few RPM, right? Revolutions per minute, a few revolutions per minute only. That is the speed at which it will rotate, and it will be exposed to this stream and this stream alternatively. Okay, so when it is here, it absorbs the moisture from this stream. So that process is shown here. So you can see the moisture level reduces from this 12 to around 6. Okay, or 13 to 7. So moisture is reduced, level is reduced, but you can see temperature is increasing, right? The process is such that it is exothermic and temperature has increased. Now the next, it is passing through this heat recovery wheel, where actually you are using the stream from the room, which provides cooling to this stream. So this also can be in the form of a wheel, and it is cooled on this side with the help of room air, and it cools this stream before going further into the room. So you can see because of that heat recovery wheel, the temperature goes down from around 53 to around 26 or something. Okay, now this air is going into this humidifier, which is something like a desert cooler, right? Evaporative cooling is provided. So what will happen? Moisture level will increase, but temperature will decrease. This may be actually an optional component. And again, the next component is also an optional component, this one. So you can see when you provide that evaporative cooling, the moisture level again increases somewhat. You can see it increases from around 7 to around 8.5 or something, right? And but the temperature goes down from around 28 to around 20 degrees Celsius, right? So 27 to 20 degrees Celsius. Okay, so this is what is supplied into the room. So you can see that this air is very comfortable, and around 20 degrees Celsius and around 9 is the relative 9 is the humidity ratio, right? So this air, fresh air, can be supplied into the room. Now, let us think about this stream, the exhaust stream from the room. So that is this state, return. Okay, what is written here? 7. Now what you are doing is first you are exposing it in a humidifier. So with the help of sprays of water, a little evaporation will take place and the temperature will reduce. That is what is shown here. So humidity is increasing, but temperature goes down. Then you are using it to take away heat from this stream, right? Okay, so it takes away heat from that stream, right? This process and this process, they occur simultaneously, this downward arrow and this upward arrow, right? Okay, now the next component, there is a heater here actually. 910 is a heating process, and where is that heat coming from? It's coming from a solar heater. Let's say it's a solar water heater, and this is a water air coil. So air is heated with the help indirectly with the help of hot water. So that hot air here, this is 10, is going to this or passing over this wheel, which has come from this portion, right? So when it is there in this portion, it has absorbed water vapor. Now it loses its capability to further absorb water vapor. It slowly goes into this part. It is exposed to hot air. So hot air takes away the moisture from that, and it is rejected to the ambient. And again, it comes back to this portion. Again, it absorbs the moisture from this stream, right? The supply stream. So that process is shown here. So what happens in this process to air? It receives moisture and its temperature goes down a bit. Okay. So this is that process. So what basically is shown here is the use of a solar collector for air conditioning purpose. So this stream of outdoor air or fresh air is conditioned. What do you mean by conditioned? The moisture is removed and the temperature is also reduced before supplying it to the room. Now you may ask, what is this component 4.5? Actually, it's an optional component. It can be used for heating. It can be used for heating if it is winter time. Okay, if it is winter time, it's an optional component. Okay, and here, like if solar energy is not available and still you want to run this system, you can use some kind of backup heating system. And this one seems to be some kind of storage because solar energy is not available uniformly throughout the day. So this can be a storage tank, let's say water storage, hot water storage tank. Right. So this is about the use of solar energy for air conditioning application. Okay, solar energy for air conditioning application. Now I think I will in the next lecture we'll talk about the electrical power generation using solar thermal collectors. But before that, let us watch this video which explains different types of applications of a parabolic trough type of collector. One of the application is also for power generation, but this is talking about applications other than power generation. So mainly it is process heating in industries. Tell me if you are not able to hear whether is it audible? Is it audible? Okay, so maybe I not included the system sound, so I'll do that.
Most inefficient forms, producing. What's your app? Not all solar technologies are created equal. Some solar panels focus on low cost but result in low efficiency. Others focus on look or features over function. But in all these cases, the sun is used in one of its most inefficient forms, producing electricity. Even the best commercially available solar panels have efficiency ratings of around 15%, which are often much lower in real-life applications. Also consider the fact that electricity only accounts for 1/3 of the energy consumption in commercial and industrial facilities. It really makes you reconsider how we are using the sun's power. Thermal energy is an energy-efficient source for creating cold air, desalination, and process heating, to name a few applications. When generated from the sun, thermal energy efficiencies are as high as 70%. Since 2002, Sopogy has been developing solutions for the solar market. Instead of trying to sell you on features, we focus on bringing you applications that help you solve your energy challenges. In this episode of Sopo How, we're going to show you how the Sopogy energy solution is configured to be versatile and robust, bringing you higher efficiencies and lower costs. At Sopogy, we start by asking you, what's your app? Micro CSP technology.
So app is application of solar energy for different purposes.
At the core of the Sopo apps is the highly efficient Sopogy solar concentrating panel. Our panel line includes the Soponova and the Sopo Flare. While similar in their ability to be locally manufactured and quickly installed, the collectors are robust and modular, making them the right solar technology for your project. Soponova is our award-winning medium temperature collector. In 2008, Soponova was recognized by the National Society of Professional Engineers as the new product of the year, an award previously given to the Boeing 777. Soponova was also selected as the consumer's top choice, receiving Plant Engineer Magazine's Gold Product of the Year award. At 12 feet long by 5 feet wide, Soponova is the ideal solution for ground-mounted installations where thermal energy needs are around 450 degrees Fahrenheit. This makes Soponova the right solution for such applications as process heat, power, solar air conditioning, and even hybrid uses. The newest collector to the Sopogy product line is the Sopo Flare panel, which comes out of Sopogy's award-winning culture of innovation. At 8 feet long by 2.5 feet wide, Sopo Flare is designed for quick and easy rooftop installations and is the perfect solution for thermal energy needs around 250 degrees Fahrenheit. Sopo Flare comes with one more benefit: it's low cost. The price point of this new technology is nearly half of competing technologies on the market today. This will help drop solar thermal energy paybacks to an industry-leading low. This makes Sopo Flare the right solution for applications such as process heat, solar air conditioning, water desalination, and hot water. Both Soponova and Sopo Flare technologies are designed around Sopogy's proprietary solar tracking and 270-degree stow mode, allowing for the system to operate in even the harshest weather conditions.
So this storm mode is like it is completely inverted, so that like in the time of the snowfall or when the winds are high, you can keep it totally inverted so that it doesn't get damaged.
Stow mode, allowing for the system to operate in even the harshest weather conditions. Since 2007, a Soponova system has been installed in the Pacific Northwest for Avista Utilities. This installation has demonstrated its abilities to operate in high-latitude locations while protecting itself during snow and hailstorms. Sopogy's applications also feature our unique thermal energy storage, which is a cost-effective method for buffering clouds or extending the solar day. What's your app? Power generation. With feed-in tariffs, tax credits, and other incentives now available, the solar electricity market has experienced significant growth over the past few years. Competitive solar power solutions exist for niche segments such as the home, small commercial business, or even utility-scale 100-megawatt installations. Still, a large void exists in large commercial and industrial markets seeking land-efficient and cost-effective 1 to 20 megawatt power systems. The solution is designed to solve the unique challenges found in this space. This includes lower costs, local contractor-friendly solutions, and energy storage that can be quickly installed. On the Big Island of Hawaii, over 1,000 Soponova Micro CSP solar collectors are installed at the Natural Energy Laboratory of Hawaii and produce 2 megawatts of thermal energy. This time-elapsed video showcases the installation of over 1,000 Soponova collectors in just over 1 month. What's your app? Solar air conditioning. HVAC can account for more than 30% of a facility's energy use. And in hot, dry, and sunny locations, air conditioning can account for 60% of the utility summer peak. With over 20 years of performance, solar thermal air conditioning is a proven technology. Over that time, efficiencies have gone up and system costs have gone down. Sopogy's solar air conditioning system is a prepackaged turnkey solution that can be installed in 3 months and brings our customers paybacks in less than 4 years, reducing over 30% of the building's primary energy use. Sopogy Sopanova collectors are being used at the Sempra Energy Resource Center. What's your app? Solar Process Heat. Over 60% of global industrial energy use is from thermal energy below 482 degrees Fahrenheit. These temperatures are only achieved using solar concentrating and tracking technologies. Micro CSP systems are specifically designed to provide an emission-free source of high-quality heat.
CSP is concentrated solar power.
Micro CSP technologies conserve natural gas, propane, or diesel fuels by supplementing existing process heat needs. Process heat industries are food and beverage, including dairies and wineries, textiles, and chemicals and pharmaceuticals. End-use opportunities include drying, dehumidification, disinfection, pasteurization, cooking, melting, washing, boiling, and sterilizing. By retrofitting an existing industrial facility, a customer can save upwards of $300,000 per year in natural gas and realize a payback of less than 3 years. In Palo Alto, California, a Sopanova system has been offsetting natural gas consumption, providing the facility with clean, renewable energy to reduce its carbon footprint. What's your app? Water desalination. 71% of the Earth is covered by ocean water. Many experts believe the lack of potable water is the second largest environmental problem next only to global warming. The process of desalination removes salt and other minerals from ocean water, turning the abundant resource into usable potable water. The process of desalination, while promising, is an energy-intensive one. 85% of all desalination in the world is through the multi-flash distillation or boiling process, typically fueled by natural gas. Sopogy's micro CSP solar collectors can be used to supplement this process, making it cleaner, greener, and more efficient. Sopogy's solar water desalination package can be installed in as fast as 6 months and produce enough water for as little as 1 home and up to an entire community. What's your app? Solar cold storage refrigeration. One of the biggest problems in cold storage is the requirement for facilities to be located near utility infrastructure. Sopogy's cold storage application drives a thermal absorption or ammonia-based chiller to provide cooling for storage and refrigeration in temperature ranges between -76 degrees Fahrenheit.
So this is talking about ammonia vapor absorption refrigeration system being run with the help of the heat provided by the small size. So they are using the word micro CSP, small size parabolic trough type of collector.
To 45 degrees Fahrenheit. Cold storage applications may include farm-based storage, large distribution centers, file and record keeping, food and produce, dairy. Sopogy's solar refrigeration system has the following advantages: rooftop installation, an easy-to-install roof-mounted racking system, and automated tracking, which allows the collectors to go into stow mode during storms. This provides the potential for cold storage facilities to be developed wherever the best and most opportune locations may be. What's your app? Hybrid systems. Conventional solar paybacks can take decades to realize. Sopogy's micro CSP solar solution gives you the flexibility to combine applications and reduce your paybacks by half the time or more. Here are several examples. Customers can install a micro CSP system that generates both energy and steam. This hybrid solution has a payback of less than 5 years. Other examples can include Power and steam. Steam and AC. AC and desal. Desal and industrial process heat. As you can see, Sopogy's solar thermal solution provides applications that solve your energy needs. So what's your app? Whether it's power, air conditioning, process heat, desalination, refrigeration, or hybrid systems, Sopogy has the solar thermal solution for you. Please visit us at sopogy.com or contact a Sopogy Solution Center.
So this video basically discussed about the use of a parabolic trough type of collector for different medium temperature applications of process heating existing in industry. So that process heating even includes refrigeration and air conditioning, and they actually also talked about power generation, which can occur at low pressure boilers and the corresponding turbines. Okay. In case you don't understand something from this video, or in general also, you can post your questions like in the Teams post, or you can put them on the, when this is uploaded, you can also put it on the YouTube channel. So we'll discuss about the power generation application of solar collectors in the next lecture.